Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Ajazad and today I'll be interviewing my dad. Say hi, Abba.
Assalamu alaikum. Why would I say hi?
Say assalamu alaikum, Abba.
Okay.
Okay, so first question. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Karachi, Pakistan, October 14, 1979.
Okay, 1979. Where did you grow up? Did you live in one house or different places?
I mostly grew up in one house.
Uh-huh.
My father had a house. I ended up staying there for almost until my 10th grade. And after I finished my 10th grade, my parents sold that house because that area was not an appropriate area for kids. There were not many educated people around us. So my father sold that house, and then we ended up moving into a rental apartment. We lived in rental houses, 3-4 houses. Like, we moved into a small one, then we moved into a bigger one. So when I bought my first car, we moved into a 400 square yard house. But I was born in a very small house, which was like 80 square yard, and it had like 3 rooms. There was no concept of bedroom. Most of the rooms are just rooms. So you bring your bed, you lay the bread at the floor, on the floor, and then you sleep, and then you fold them, you put them in a storage area, and then that becomes the living room. Whenever you want to dine in, you just have dastarkhan, You laid that dastarkhan paper, that cloth, and that turned into a dining room. And when you have guests, you have a bigger sheet, like white sheet on the floor, and then that becomes your drawing room, So we had 3 rooms in our house. It was a small courtyard. So the design of that house was small courtyard in the middle. There were 3 rooms on one side, 2 next to each other, and the third one was on the other side. And then we had a kitchen and a bathroom and then toilet. So one thing of which you probably haven't seen here is having a separate toilet and separate bathroom, not attached to your room, And that was a really nice thing in that house. I still miss it. That all the dirty stuff is separated from where you actually live,
Okay. What was your favorite subject at school?
Yeah, so I always liked mathematics. Mathematics has always been my favorite subject, but you can't really understand mathematics if you don't understand science. A lot of times the equations are giving you a reference to something, and you can only understand mathematical equations, what they are trying to tell you, if you understand the science, So science and mathematics were always my favorite subjects. My teacher, Sister Mumtaz, she was one of the best mathematics teachers I ever had in my life. She taught us quadratic equations and how you can implement quadratic equations in life. And I was fascinated by that fact that these mathematical things we solve, or equations we solve, they mean something, So I always had the interest in mathematics and science. It goes hand in hand, and that's why after finishing my studies, I'm still very much interested in astrophysics, I like to study the quantum physics, the quantum mechanics. I'm very much interested in that. At one point, I wanted to do my PhD in quantum mechanics, because the household where your Dadijan grew up, that household had a physics professor, So your Nani was a teacher of physics in a college, So that was a huge influence when I was growing up, Because she used to teach us simple things like play with the prism, for example, and how the refraction of light works. Like if you go through the light goes from the lighter medium to the denser medium, how it bends and all of that, right? So those were the things she used to teach us when we were very young, like when we were literally like 5-6 years old, right? She used to give us these things and give us pins to play with it, right? So you do all of those experiments in college days, but we were actually doing those when we were
like
very young.
5-6
Yeah.
years.
So you probably know now why I do those things with you guys, because this is how I grew up. So maths and science was always been my favorite.
Okay. Did you have a favorite book or TV series?
Absolutely. Back in the days, TV was not a big thing for us, right? We did not have a TV, and we did not have that many programs on TVs anyways. But two things significantly I loved, even today. One was a book I was given as a gift from my school. The name of that book was Ali Par Kya Guzri. If you remember, I actually bought that book recently so that you guys can read it, right? Or I actually read it for you. But that story, I think, played a huge role in my life, because there were many things in that storybook which I can relate to now. And if I look back, I feel like that book played a very important role in my life. Even though when you look at my life versus if you read the book, there are many things you will say, there is no relation. But this is how I felt as a child, as a human being when I was growing up, right? And I used to read that book a lot. I used to fascinate. And I think now when I look back, and that's why I bought that book for you guys, that book definitely impacted a lot. Speaking of the favorite TV programs, every Friday back in the days, there used to be a program called Sesame Street.
Oh, Elmo!
Yeah. So our favorite character was not Elmo. Our favorite character was Big Bird, right? And Ernie Murray, right? And Dracula and Grouch.
The trash can guy.
Yeah. So we used to, love. So Elmo was born in that program when we were watching it, right? So we were very fascinated by the fact that there was a character born. So Emma was a baby, like he did not know how to speak, right? So he learned in front of us like a baby how to speak, right? So Emma was obviously very cute, but before Emma,
Big Bird, Grouch, Dracula, Bernie, and
Ernie Bernie,
Ernie Bernie.
There was a Cookie Monster there, right?
Monster.
So that was our favorite thing, and I think we learned English from that, American culture from that. So that played a huge impact on our personalities, our life, and in general.
Okay, that's nice. What was your favorite snack back in the day?
Yeah, so snacking was a privilege, right? Not something you
just run upstairs or lock
yeah,
your drawer. Ooh,
exactly.
Snacks.
Yeah. So every day at 5 o'clock, your Dadi Jan would wake up from a nap, right? And she would make a tea for herself and for Dada Jan, my dad. But kids were not allowed to have tea.
Yeah.
Because it has caffeine in it, and back in the days we were not even that. I don't want to say well off. I just want to say we were living by our means, right? So it was a tight budget we were living our life off. So even drinking a milk was a big thing on daily basis, right? So my parents spent all their money, whatever my dad was making, they spent on our education, gave us the best education they can, right? Or they could. So our snack was, there was one jar with biscuits in it, and there was another jar with some toffees in it, right? So we were allowed to take one toffee and one biscuit from that. And I'm not talking about biscuit packet. I'm talking about like one biscuit.
One biscuit itself.
Right. It's not like this.
I know, but
like big, this big, right? But still one.
Naan khatai, yeah.
Not naan khatai. It could be any kind of biscuit, right? So that was our snack. And a lot of time we wanted to have like 2 biscuits and no toffee, or maybe 2 toffees and no biscuit. But Dadijan was very strict in the sense that you need to follow discipline. You're allowed to have 1 of each, because who's gonna eat the other half, right? And it's gonna go bad, so you better finish it. So I think that was very important lesson as a kid that we learned, that we don't want to waste. Second thing is, even if we don't like something, we still have to eat it because something is bought and we have to finish it, right? So we used to have that every day, 5 o'clock, one snack. So that was the only choice we had.
Okay, next question. What did you want to be when you grew up? Like when you were young, what did you want to be when you were like, I want to be this when I grow up?
So I always wanted to be a doctor. I love the idea that one person who's knowledgeable enough, who can help other human beings in a way that if you're sick, somebody can give you and take care of you based on the knowledge of medicine, right? So I always wanted to be a doctor. But then what happened is I realized very quickly in my life that if I want to be a doctor, it will take me another
4 years.
Not 4 years, probably 15 years to become somebody who will create a difference in humans' life. But being the eldest son in the family, I had so many responsibilities. So I had to think about something other than being a doctor. So first I wanted to be an accountant. There was a big thing back in Pakistan when I was growing up, being a chartered accountant. I was good with mathematics anyways, right? So I thought maybe I can be an accountant. But then I also realized after sitting in the exam for the admission test that even if I get elected and become the student of chartered accountancy, even then it will take me several years because the examinations are very tough and very limited number of people are past that exam. So I had no choice other than switching to engineering, and I think I don't regret, because
like you've made a successful business already. You already have a business.
Yeah, I mean I'm pretty good with my decision, right? And alhamdulillah, I did my master's in computer science, and I still study. I mean, I still love mathematics. I still love science in general. So
that's good to know. Okay, what was your first job when you
Yeah, so I started making money when I was 16-year-old. So this is not common in Pakistan. A 16-year-old of my age, and I'm talking about back in 1995, right, where kids would start working. And I'm not talking about working like a giving tuitions or doing some freelance. I'm talking about labor work. So what happened is I lived closer to a place where there were many marble factories. They used to cut marbles, right? So the bulldozer would come in, and then from the boulder you will make different pieces, like smaller pieces. So sometimes those are slabs, sometimes those are tiles, right? So I used to cut those for 8 rupees an hour.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't a lot, but then I had no choice. I had to do it. My father was going through some financial struggles in his life, so I had to pitch in. I had to support my education. So my dad told me, my mom told me that you're old enough where you can make your own money and do whatever needs to be done. And remember Ali Par Kya Guzri, I was telling you about. So I got that book when I was in 4th grade. So think about this. I had already been reading about Ali, what he did in his life to become somebody. So that had an impact. And to be honest, my biggest support in my life was my mother, right? she never discouraged me to do anything. If I said something, she said, yes, you will be able to do it. And that gave me so much courage that I was able to do almost everything I wanted in my life just because of their support. So definitely my parents, both, Abba and Amma, both, mom and dad, they both supported us. Like Dadajan, he never said anything to prevent me to do something, right? He was always encouraging us to do whatever we want to do in our life. So having that kind of support from the family was the reason I was able to do it. So my first job was a labor job, doing marble cutting for 8 rupees an hour. I did that for almost a year and a half. And then one day one person came to that place and saw me changing my school uniform, my college uniform, and he was like, this is a very prestigious college uniform, how come you're wearing? And I'm like, well, I go to one, right? He was like, seriously, you go to a DJ Science College? I was like, yeah, I'm a student of DJ Science College. He said, so why are you doing this work here? And I explained him what I'm trying to do. He said, why don't you stop doing what you're doing and you should tutor my kids. So then I became a teacher. And
how much money did you earn then?
So he offered me 600 rupees to teach for 1 hour for 22 days in a month.
Yeah.
Right? So I used to go there Monday to Friday, teach his kids, and he was paying me 600 rupees for 1 hour.
Wow.
Right? And think from that perspective that I was like, wow, this is really good money. So I started teaching for 4 to 5 hours in a day, and I was able to not only support my entire education, but I was also pitching in to support my family. And being the eldest son, I was able to finish my education and also supported my mom and dad in the wedding of my elder sister, just because of I was tutoring. So tutoring helped me learn a lot about people, how to talk, right, how to explain, which eventually helped me in my career.
and it helped you teach us about what we now know today.
Yeah.
You taught us everything you know. Then
Yeah.
we will pass that on down to our kids.
Yeah.
And they'll pass it down to their kids.
Yeah. So that was the first job.
When did you get married and why?
Yeah, so this is another very interesting thing. I got married when I was 25, okay? And all my life I was just complaining in my head that, my name is not related to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like there is no companion whose name is Shahzad, no companion by the name of Humayun, right? So why my name is Shahzad Humayun? Because my dad's name is Umar Farooq, right? So he's a companion. My grandfather's name is Abu Bakr Siddiq, right? So he's a companion. So I was just asking in my head, like, how come my name is not in the name of any Sahaba or somehow related to Rasulullah? And technically, I was thinking my name should have been Ali, right? Because if I'm a son of Umar, right, and my grandfather is Abu Bakr, technically speaking, I should be Ali, right? Anyways, long story short, so when I turned 25, I got married to a mother. And this is how I related to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that he also got married to Khadija Radhiyallahu anha at the age of 25. And that was a turning point in my life. Because I was able to relate my marriage age to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam marriage age, I started reading about the seerah very seriously. I started trying to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam very seriously. And I studied the seerah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam after I got married. And obviously, there are many aspects of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam life which we don't read or which we don't know, because this is not a general information. If you really consider yourself as a student of seerah, only then you know. So there are many incidents in my life, including the whole marriage ceremony of my personal marriage ceremony, and the incidents happened during that time. as well as the time when Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was getting married to Khadija, and he had to face certain things. I was able to relate and understand and read about it. So I think
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had other plans for you instead of your name.
Yeah.
He had other plans.
Yeah. So I got married at the age of 25, and that was the reason. And my parents told me that you're not going to United States without getting married. So that was the time when I came to United States at the age of 25. So right before coming, I was married. I stayed here for 9 months and then brought your mom.
What was your favorite age and why?
Yeah, so this might be a surprise for you that I personally like my life after I got married. So,
I mean, I understand because like you're related to the Prophet, so of course you're probably gonna love it.
Yeah, but not only that, but think about this. Like usually people say, when we were young, we had a wonderful life. I had a wonderful life too. Like as a child, I was playing, and I was very happy. I was surrounded by a lot of people like my parents and my siblings, those who are very loving and caring. But if you ask me to go back in a time, I would go back to the time when I got married. Right? That was the change of my life. Everything changed in my life after that. So that's my best time. And to be honest, like, why am I telling you this not at a young age? There are certain things, Zaid, everybody goes through, right? Some adults still, like if I talk about these things very seriously, they, like my friends, right? They laugh at it or they make fun of it, but only person knows how somebody makes them feel, right? So the culture in Pakistan is very rough on kids, especially the kids, those who have darker skin like mine. So I was bullied in school. I was ridiculed by a lot of people around me. Even though I was a very good student, I was a very obedient child in general, with family members, with friends, with teachers, right? All of that. But this is a weird thing in that culture, that people judge you, or they say nasty things about you based on the color of your skin. That impacted me very negatively, right? I was less confident because of that, even though, like I said, everybody was loving me and all of that, but I had an issue of confidence because of that. But what happened is, even though I got married to a beautiful woman like your mom at the age of 25, I also moved from Pakistan to the United States. And I think that changed everything for me, right? Number one is financially, going from a third world country to a first world country. That's a huge change. But I think the environment creates a huge impact on you. Here, usually people don't pass comments on your color of your skin. They don't judge you in general, right? Because you're protected by law, and the society is also different. So this is much more tolerating society than in Pakistan. So that's why probably I don't want to go back in the time I was growing up, versus I would like to go back to age of 25 when I got married and I came here. Right? Different answer.
Yeah. What are you most proud to have done in your life?
I don't want to say I'm proud of it, but I like this part about me. So at a very young age, I realized that I like helping people in different ways. Sometimes by hand, sometimes by words, sometimes by encouragement, sometimes by building something for them. So over the last several decades in my life, when I was very conscious about this strength of mine, I helped many people, different ways. Sometimes, I used to live in a neighborhood where there was a husband-wife, and they were always very respectful to us, right? They Muslim family, but they did not have things which I had. Like, I had a very good job, and I had a very good car, and I was living very comfortably with my kids and all of that, and they were struggling, right? They did not have the education, they did not have the proper guidance. So what I end up doing is I end up teaching them for several months over the weekends and all of that. And now they have a very good IT job, and they have a beautiful house and exactly the same car I drive. They drive the same. And you know, similarly, there are many examples like that. I met somebody in the masjid, and the father of that person said, you know, I wish my son would be able to do things what you do. And I was like, why don't you, arrange a meeting with me? And I met him, and then I taught him, and I, coached him, and he became an engineer, even though his background was economics. But then he ended up moving into IT field. He's very successful. I met one more person who got married at a very young age when he was going to school here in the United States, right? And then he came, and he was an engineer, electronics engineer. I said, quit that, study programming language and become a computer scientist. And now he's also very successful, and he's also living here. So just like that, I met a lot of people in my life. And I also want you to understand, Zaid, that you yourself consider a product of your people around you, right? So you're not a self-made person. You're somebody who's been helped and supported by many people, right? So if you look at my life, I've been supported and helped by many people. A lot of people contributed a little bit in my life, as well as some people like your Dada Jan, Dadi Jan, right, and one of my khalas, and Mamu, right, my Mamu, and my Nani, right, and several other people in my life. They helped me becoming who I am. So I think this is my way of giving back, right? Understanding the fact that I am who I am because of the people. So I need to provide that support to others. Okay, so that's what I like. Not proud of myself, but I like from others.
During your adult life, have you lived in different places? Have you traveled?
So I lived all my life in Karachi. Mm-hmm. I went to Islamabad, another city, just to get a visa for US. Mm-hmm. And I attended my friend's wedding in Sakkar. So these are the three cities I visited in Pakistan. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, when I moved to the United States, I traveled a lot. I've been to 40 some states already.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I've been to I think 10 countries because of the work, right? Or maybe just I like it now, right? We as a family have been to multiple countries, and hopefully we will do more.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it. That's all. Thank you, Abba, for sitting here and taking time out of your day just to get interviewed.
Okay.
Okay, so
thank you.
that was all. Assalamu alaikum.